Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host, and I want to try to do a short one here. Just happened to be on the road and travel through Texas and New Mexico for personal reasons. Visit a family member in the nursing home, and since we're in the area of the Wild West and the cowboys and stuff, well, thought I'd try to do a short one with a Western theme. This is Two Gun Kid, number 108 from January 1973. And the title is Fury at Falcon Flats. And this is guest stars the Rawhide Kid. So you get two kids for the price of one. The Two Gun Kid and the Rawhide Kid. Of course, it's Marvel Comics. They had several Western titles from the 60s and early 70s. It's when the Western stuff was real popular on TV and in the movies. Okay, and this story, it was written by Larry Leiber, which is kind of a surprise in a way, because Larry Leiber is better known as an artist, and he is the brother of Stan Lee himself. And he did the Rawhide Kid comics for off and on for many years, and of course just about everything else possible. But also for several years was the cartoonist who drew the Spider-Man comic strip for the newspapers for many years. Okay, and then the art chores are done by Dick Ayers as penciler, who also a long time worker at Marvel and Atlas and Timely before that, as well as other publishers, and mostly did stuff like westerns. He did some western stuff, a lot of western stuff for DC as well. And when I did he was the artist on the Scalp Hunter story that I did some time back. And then of course, he did a little bit of everything, of course, but his best work, I think, was always on the westerns and the war comics. He did Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos for many years. And of course, he did a lot of the superhero stuff. I just don't think, by and large, Dick Ayers' superhero work did not look nearly as good as his westerns and war stuff. And then it was inked by the ever-present Vince Coletta. Almost anything of this time period you find was inked by Vince Coletta. And of course, a lot of people chastise Vinnie Coletta for some of his practices in inking, and he was a very adequate and capable artist in his own right. And I always say, I think his best work, of course, was on the romance comics. His style just works best for the romance comics. And when he's doing the other stuff, the only time it usually shines is inking the lovely ladies, because his inking was able to really bring out the loveliness of the female characters. Well, don't have much in the way of female characters in this one, but I do think his inking works pretty well here with Dick Ayers' work in this book and a lot of this stuff. And I don't think Vince Coletta's inking worked nearly so well over just about anybody's in the pencils in the superhero genre. And of course, this is a great dynamic cover drawn by the great Gil Kane. And I love this stuff. And it looks like he probably inked this himself. It kind of looks like his line work, and he had a tendency to use flare felt tip pens, markers for his inking work. In the 70s, when he inked his own stuff in the 70s, which unfortunately does not look as good as it could have been, and sometimes his work looks best with other inkers for that region, I think. But this is great. It's dynamic. You got both Two Gun Kid and Rawhide Kid here on the cover. It goes, and Rawhide says, "Slap leather masked man, or else today's the day they bury me in Boot Hill." And then Two Gun says, "We're riding out here together, kid, or not at all." It's a guest starring the Rawhide Kid. Very action-packed, very dramatic, and eye-catching cover. He did a lot of these covers. See, and at this point in time, most of the Western stuff was reprint material. All through the 60s, we'd have an occasional new story just like this. Of course, the Two Gun Kid, there were two characters by the name of Two Gun Kid from Marvel, and the first was started in 1948 from the Marvel predecessor Timely Comics, and the second and better known, and he also happens to be this version, is the Matt Hawk version. He's the lawyer, and he wears a mask, so he's kind of like a little bit like the Lone Ranger or the later superheroes in Marvel, and he kind of fits in with that stuff. And this Two Gun Kid was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1962. And Two Gun Kid became part of the wider Marvel universe through appearances in the Avengers due to time travel. A time or two, the Avengers went back in time and met up with the Two Gun Kid, and they did had some adventures together. And for a time, Two Gun Kid came to the present, where of course the present at that time was the 20th century. And he had some adventures with the Avengers at that time for a while. Unfortunately, I seem to have missed all of that stuff, almost all of that. So I've seen references to it, and I think I've seen or read one or maybe two issues involving that, but I don't know much about it or why. But I think that's kind of neat. So now I'll take just a kind of a short look through this issue. There, and my apologies for the glare. You can kind of see it a little better there, because it's what I've got to work with. That's a little better. More that cover, of course. And this is a real rough copy. I had a bad tear on the cover, and I had to tape it up a little bit. See, most of these were during this time period. A lot of them were reprint issues, reprint stories from. But along about in this time period, now except for the '60s, Two Gun Kid, he was because he was a newer creation, and it was later in the decade they started reprinting the earlier Two Gun Kid stories, as well as bringing back the original Two Gun Kid and doing some retconning, changing some stuff in the art or the dialogue to make it the same character, Matt Hawk, in a time before he went west and became a working lawyer, just so that they could reuse that all those stories. And this was an original story specifically for this issue, not a reprint. And then along this time, so the other titles, because at this time the main Western characters that they were producing was Two Gun Kid, Rawhide Kid, and Kid Colt. And almost everything else was just all reprint material. And they had been reprint material too, and they still off and on reprint material with some newer stories thrown in, especially an occasional crossover, and of course also some of the original Ghost Rider, the Western Ghost Rider, which I like better than the Johnny Blaze motorcycle Ghost Rider. And of course after they started that Ghost Rider, they kind of changed him to Haunted Horseman or something like that. That's the name that they use in the reprint material, because that Ghost Rider, he traveled with Dick Ayers through many publishers. So here is right off the bat, action-packed splash page, and what it is some outlaws that Two Gun Kid is chasing, because Two Gun Kid is kind of like the Lone Ranger. He's the masked man, alternate identity, after bad guys. And they're blasting away. Well, just happened that Rawhide Kid happened to be camped right near that, and he comes to Two Gun Kid's aim, and they managed to chase off the bad guys, because Two Gun and Rawhide were kind of outnumbered. But in the process, this villain, this head of this gang, had a scrape with Rawhide Kid before, and wanted to get some revenge on him. And in the process, he managed to swipe one of the garters from his sleeve, and then they all scatter in different directions, and Rawhide was kind of knocked out. So meanwhile, they're heading back to town. Two Gun Kid worked out of a fictitious tombstone, city of Tombstone. Never said where it was. And there's an army payroll being it would have been better guarded than that, being delivered to a nearby fort. And they get chased by the outlaws to go over a cliff. They're killed. They get the gang leaves the Rawhide Kid's garter, and there as evidence, and they take off with the payroll, leaving 2 dead soldiers. And then, so in the process, during the investigation, they find this out. There's in Tombstone, Two Gun and Rawhide part ways. Rawhide goes to eat, and then Mad Hawk pops up, because he is familiar with Rawhide in that guise as well. And they're kind of eating together, talking, when the Soldier Boys show up. And Soldier Boys show up and realize that garter matches Rawhide Kid's other garter. It's lost. They arrest him for that. So all good visual storytelling. The figures are a bit stiff, because both Dick Ayers and Vince Coletta had a tendency towards a little bit of stiffness, but it's not necessarily in a bad way here. It's good visual storytelling, good anatomy. They're just both good at doing the westerns, and I think it's very well told, and it's a good story. I like the story. Mad Hawk is they go to it at an instant tribunal and convict him, even though Mad Hawk is his lawyer, and just appears crazy to me that Mad Hawk or Rawhide Kid did not think to mention the fact that he's got an alibi. When all this robbery was going down, he was with Two Gun Kid at that time, and it never occurred to anybody to use that as an alibi. Well, there's Two Gun and his buddy Boom Boom, who's the only person who knows his dual identity, and he's going to say, well, I can't get him, I can't let him, he knows he's not guilty, and they're going to take him out, execute him right there. And Two Gun Kid busts in with under a screen of smoke, and they take off. Gets Rawhide Kid, and they take off, and they realize who the guy was. Rawhide recognizes and remembers who he was, and they realize the kind of guy he was. There's a nearby town where it is pretty rough, small town, and pretty rough, and a lot of outlaws travel through there. They go, figuring they're going to go hoop it up. Two Gun Kid has a plan, and they find the villains at the saloon. They knock out all the lights, and they're glowing, making him think that he's a ghost, because in their minds, Rawhide Kid has been executed. Blam, blam, blam. With the help of Two Gun Kid, they're really spooking these guys out with the glowing head, glowing hands, and shooting guns out of the people's hands and all kinds of stuff. This is one of the reasons why I mentioned Ghost Rider, because this is the kind of tricks from the Ghost Rider. This is how the Ghost Rider, original Western Ghost Rider, worked with the glowing stuff and making people think he's a ghost when he wasn't. So they work together, take care of these bad guys, and they capture him. And they've got the evidence. So they take him. The soldiers had followed the trail of the two kids. They arrived just in time for Rawhide Kid and Two Gun Kid to turn this villain over and clear his name. At least on that. He's still wanted elsewhere. I don't know why I never got that cleared. So here it is. We make a good team, Two Gun, but now it's time for us to take separate trails. Adios. He said, good luck, Rawhide. The law calls you outlaw, but I'll always be proud to call you friend. Soon the dust from galloping hoofbeats settles on the trail, but not for long. Next issue, there'll be more thrills and excitement with the masked champion of justice, the Two Gun Kid. And then it's got a reprint of an older, non-related Western story behind that. And it's just a lot of fun. I love the old Westerns, Western comics. They're a lot of fun because I'm a big Western fan, and just want to share it once in a while, and hope, even if most of my viewers might not be Western fans, I hope I can help instill a little bit of love for the Old West, the nice shoot 'em ups and the like. And so they are a lot of fun to read, even though they're hokey, because remember, we're here to tell tales of the Wild West that never was. And please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment, partner. Tell me what you think of the Rawhide Kid and the Two Gun Kid, and how Two Gun Kid went outside the law to help a friend in need. Yeehaw! Leave a comment. And remember, comics are art.